we live? We're live. Oh shit! So, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this review of the Joker movie.
Oh, the music's still on.
I agreed to dress as Batman. I agreed as a joke, and what I am is Batman's sexy gimp slave. How did this happen?
Well, I pitched it to the entire live stream yesterday, and you totally didn't mention it at all, which meant you were trying to get away with not wearing your Batman outfit.
That's
Bruce
right.
Wayne.
Yes, I didn't want to wear the outfit.
And in the hour that you took a nap, I took my electric unicycle down to the city center of Prague, walked down an alleyway, and found a costume store. Turns out they actually didn't carry any Marvel characters or you because of copyright reasons. So what I did instead was got you a fetish mask because it suits your personality.
Good. I think it does. I think I look better in a sexy Batman-style gimp mask than I would have done in a proper Batman mask. I'm happy with this outcome. I'm happy that I arrived at this point in my life right now. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Role playing in the middle of Europe.
Soon, absinthe and heroin will surely follow. So, ladies and gentlemen, I saw this film for the first time yesterday, and that was your second viewing yesterday, right?
Second viewing, yes.
I say film, though really, this is more like a hand grenade that's been thrown in the middle of a culture war, it seems. The film is multi-layered, multi-textual. There's an awful lot going on. The more I think about it, we've only really had 24 hours to kind of think it through.
Yeah, there's not enough either.
There's so many things. Like Todd Phillips has gone from being goofy hangover guy to meta level master of filmmaking. He's made the inception of films. This is a film that manages to talk about film, that manages to reference film whilst not sacrificing a story whatsoever. The story is not sacrificed for political agenda. This is it's a fascinating story. It's a character study. It's totally gripping for the whole 2 hours. And the feedback that everybody's been giving it is they could have stood it going on even longer. I definitely could have done. I definitely could have. We can say what we want, right? Because spoilers, guys. We are going to
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Joker's going to come in here and write a little warning. For
just have a whole warning just running for a while. Otherwise,
oops. I was going to write spoilers, but I wrote my name. Narcissism.
So hashtag narcissism.
Yes.
Let me see what we're doing in the comments.
Okay, so spoiler warning. We're going to talk about the movie. This was my second time watching it, and through the second time, if anything, it's opened more questions for me, whereas opposed to answering things. I've seen a lot of different things that I didn't even notice the first time around, but also because I saw those things, it's making me even think about it even more.
Right. If you love film, you will love this film. This is a film for film lovers. Pierre, even you were saying that, like, after the movie, it made you love film again, right? We've seen so much shit at the cinema in the last few years. Yes.
This is actually the first movie in years that I deliberately wanted to go out of my flat into the movie theater to buy a ticket to go see. Otherwise, I'm just with friends and they're like, "Hey, let's watch this." All right, sure, why not?
Yeah,
go there. It's fine, you know.
And we today have been, we must just talk for 2 hours about composition in YouTube videos. It's really,
that's right.
It really motivated us both to just up our game completely because we both have had an interest in making films for years. So we're going to up our game in this. The reason is he, with this film, the director has shown what film can do and what it should be doing. And by doing that, not in a passive aggressive way, but he's really highlighted what's not gone on. It's funny that Scorsese was originally attached to this movie, and people have said, there's elements of Taxi Driver in it, there's elements of Mean Streets in it, and then Scorsese, like the week it comes out, slams Marvel movies, right? Basically being a roller coaster ride that just make money, and people got upset about that, which is amazing to me. I was like, how do people get defensive about Marvel movies? They are clearly what they are. Like, they're supposed to be big summer blockbusters that just put bums on seats. No, there's no like artistic expression. Nobody's like, "Oh my God, you don't feel what the movie was about." It's not about anything. It's fluff. I like them. I think it's great if you accept them like that.
There's a strange fandom when it comes to those particular things, particularly, like you said, superhero movies. K-pop also goes in the same genre.
Yeah.
Certain types of art breed this fanatical energy around it. And I'm not exactly sure what it is, but definitely superhero movies, people hold really dear to their hearts. And if you attack their favorite superhero, you're going to get that superhero to come and attack you once you attack them.
Yes, definitely. There's a really like thin-skinned super your bandana is off. Are
you happy now?
The other pissy comment is Joaquin is pronounced Joaquin with the eyes rolling upward. It fucking isn't pronounced Joaquin, you flipping idiot. It's a Spanish name, Joaquin. Seriously, you think that's how it's pronounced?
Batman, I like that. Keep talking like that. Taking a page out of my book now.
If you really must know, it's Joaquin. Joaquin.
Bandana's off center. How about this? Is that better?
That's much, much better. What this film shows, though, is that we are in a place right now, culturally, that is extremely messed up. Extremely messed up, where the director is putting the audience and the media in a double bind, where if you agree with Joker, if you sympathize with him, you're a psychopath, just like he is. If you disagree with him, then you are a reality-denying, fake, sort of orthodoxy, dogmatic, line-stepping, submissive type who's like, no, it's totally wrong. I didn't agree with anything he did. And you'd be like, well, are you for mental health issues? Yes, of course I am. I'm for raising awareness of depression and anxiety, but you have no sympathy for this character. No, what he did was wrong. It's amazing because it's this double bind that if you get caught up in, all of your bullshit's going to be revealed. That's what we loved about it.
Right. And I think in a heavily polarized world where everything is black and white, it sets up situations, like you said, where if you were to take a side, you're going to feel bad about yourself.
Yeah.
So to re-summarize really quickly what you're saying is, if you empathize with the Joker and feel sorry for him, you're empathizing with a straight up murderer. Mm-hmm. If you do not and you empathize with the other side, you're empathizing with the bullies who made the Joker. So if you want to try to live a black and white world in this movie, you're gonna see a side of yourself that's quite hard to deal with, quite dark, quite disgusting.
And I think that's the great thing to do right now with art, with creative expression, is to just hold a mirror back up to society and show people how fucking full of shit they are, how full of nonsense and posturing and virtue signaling everybody is. And it's just this facile, cheap game of one-upmanship and trying to be like, no, I am pure. I passed the purity test. I've never, ever had a violent thought in my life. I've never got frustrated and wanted to slap somebody upside the head. Bullshit. It's just a lie. So we're trying to do mental health and mental health issues and raising awareness of mental health, but keep our hands clean. And this movie tells you very, very straightforwardly, you can't. You can't. Everybody's hands are dirty. Nobody gets to be the good guy in this. Even the Batman.
Nice
He
try.
definitely doesn't have his hands clean in this, because this is also a film about class and class warfare. And Batman only represents the upper class. He is what was I saying yesterday? The conservative wet dream. He goes out there and beats the shit out of blue collar criminals whilst leaving the heads of corporations and the heads of banks alone, because they're his friends who he takes money from, so he can build even bigger cars and have better machinery of torture to torture criminals with. So the film, there are mad film theories out there. One of the crazy film theories out there that we should cover early on is that what we're seeing in the film isn't real. Did you buy that one?
I think that there's obviously elements that are written in the script that are delusions, that they're supposed to be delusions, legitimately made to be delusions. And the film theory goes as far as not only those scenes, but pretty much 90% of the movie is actually just all in Joaquin's head. I'm a little mixed on the both. I don't think it's just the whole thing is just completely a fantasy. There has to be anchoring points to the whole thing.
Right.
I just don't know which ones are.
I like the idea that the whole thing is just pure psychotic delusion, and that this guy, the problem with it's actually a film, it's called Joker. But if we took like a psychoanalytic perspective, I don't buy this either, but say I did, I would run with it this way, that like it's a film that's about Arthur Fleck, the toothless guy. He's a wolf who's toothless. He's a defanged wolf in a society that cannot abide fanged wolves. You're not allowed to be a fanged wolf in this society. So he's declawed and defanged. In the beginning of the film, we see a guy totally humiliated and doing a humiliating job where he's mocked by everybody around him and is literally stamped on the floor. And it's a good moment. If you notice when he takes a beating in the first scene of the film, he actually he sets off his own squirty flower.
Yes.
He reaches through.
I'm surprised you noticed that, because I didn't notice that until the second time around after watching the film analysis videos. Didn't even see that the first time.
Yeah, there was this like weak sort of squirt of water, and that's us seeing the character in his most pitiful moment. But there's also a suggestion there that he himself finds it funny. He himself still has this totally sick, dark sense of humor in his utter, abject humiliation, shame, despair, and dejection, where he, after being beaten up and kicked in the kidneys and kicked in the balls, he reaches through and goes, meep, meep, and just squirts this little bit of water out the flower. I really liked that. I thought that was awesome. But from that point onward, I would suspect that where there's a line of reasoning that would say everything then is delusional, because this is a guy who cannot act. He cannot take action.
I just thought of maybe there's a conceptual element on the fact that it could be all a delusion. Maybe it's actually making direct commentary of how we generally socialize with each other, where there's a film theory that every interaction where anyone's nice to him, he's hallucinating that. He's just hearing what he wants to hear from a person giving him a revolver, maybe from his mom, from the Thomas Wayne or the talk show host Murray.
Yeah.
He's just hallucinating all of the nice things. Anything that's nice told to him, he's hallucinating.
Yes.
And I feel like, don't we kind of do that collectively?
Yes.
Don't we just only want to hear the nice things that you want to hear from other people?
Yeah, you could. I mean, you could adjust your perceptual filters. If you were traumatized enough, you could adjust your perceptual filters to have positive hallucinations and negative hallucinations. A negative hallucination would be if somebody says something mean to you, you just delete it. You just go, I didn't hear that. That didn't happen. Somebody smacks you, you just delete it from your memory, which the film suggests he did do, because when he finds out that his mother was not loving and kind to him his whole life, she was actually abusive, he's shocked. And you kind of think, how would he not remember anything? Like, he has literally no memory whatsoever. He's not even wondering, why can't I remember my childhood? You know, that happens. He says he gets a traumatic brain injury at one point and he did damage his head. But then I've worked with clients like that. They know that they can't remember, but he doesn't seem to know that he doesn't know. And he has this childlike innocence. He goes, really? My mom wasn't nice to me? It's like, how could you not have any of that? So that fan theory I really, really like, actually. I didn't read that one, but that's
so you think it's unintentional, his childlike view of the world? Like, you think he's not aware of how infantile he's viewing everything in aspect of his life? I
think this is an extremely psychologically literate film. I mean, there's no wrong footing here. And I would forgive a wrong footing. There's wrong footings in the Silence of the Lambs movies, and you just go, fine, it's a story, who cares? There's nothing here that's wrong. There's nothing here that I could see that was like, no, that wouldn't play out. His infantile defense to the extreme trauma that was physical and psychological that went on for years is literally infantile. He just breaks in his own emotional maturation. He can't perceive reality as it really is. He's so riddled through with the trauma that he has no ability to function in the world.
The way you say that really does make me think that it was intentionally framed like this to make a commentary of the cultural consensus on how to treat trauma, especially in the West. Movies made in LA. Director, actors live in LA. And I will tell you, from living in LA, that is the way to deal with your trauma. Hi, everybody, it's me again. And I was wondering, it's just, it's fine.
So
everything's okay. Everything's okay. And I think it's making a direct analysis and commentary on that particular form of communication with other people and how we're told to deal with our trauma. To keep putting on a smile, don't acknowledge the shadow, just let people step over you and look at what you want to hear from them. Look at the positive. Look at the positive. Look at the positive. Even though they totally called you a slur. Remember when they did this? That was kind of nice. You know, they actually gave you a glass of water one of these days. You want a glass of water, by the way? Do you want a glass of water?
I do. I'd love one.
Batman's gonna get some water.
That's very kind of you. What a charming and codependent response. You could see that it's the leather that's making me sweat here. No, I've seen people actually live that out in California, particularly. I hadn't considered that aspect of it, where there is this very, very strong top-down, unconscious, ideological pressure to constantly put on a happy face, to the point where, and I'll be very careful what I say here, thank you. I saw a situation unfold in which a woman in a social circle, her marriage was breaking down, and the people in that social circle were angry with her for being heartbroken.
Really?
Yes, and they said things like, "This girl's being a real downer right now," and I'm like,
"Oh my God,
she has a child with a man who's fucking another woman. I think she has a right to be depressed." But it's like living inside of it. Well, I've said this about, I'm very critical of California, but it's like living inside of a cult. And if you don't play the game, everybody else in the tribe turns on you. They're like, "Could you not be a bummer right now? You're really bringing me down. Somehow this is like, you're heartbroken. You're going through a divorce. But it really
affects me.
For me.
Just for me.
For me.
For me.
For me. For me.
For me, it's really making me uncomfortable.
I literally heard somebody say the words, "For me, the energy in our house right now, I just can't deal with that level of intensity." I'm like, your friend fucking needs you. Yeah. Where's the sisterhood where you're supposed to be with her? And she's like, "Just for me right now, I have too much going on."
Yeah, and when I lived in California, the way that you explain it being very cult-like, it is very cult-like. Everyone has a general frame of understanding and communication that if you cross the boundaries and in any way, you're ostracized immediately.
Yes.
If you're not into a defined subculture, you're left out. If you're not part of the new age crystal healing group or Urban Outfitters type of, like you're part of the yuppies over here or something like this. Mm-hmm. But there's one collective philosophy that everyone goes by.
Yes.
Don't talk about your feelings or trauma. You actually have to look at the positive. Just look at put a smile on, put a smile on. It's, it's fine. We're all in debt out here. It's really funny.
We're all in debt. It's really
It could be a lot worse.
But the thing that scares me about that is a lot of the like, you are a native Californian. You're actually from LA. A lot of these people are not even from California, and I'm like, I know that you're from a place that doesn't have these cultural coordinates. But once they get off the plane, they put on the makeup and put on a happy face. It's California time. We're gonna smile. Yes. Like, it's okay to feel like shit. It's okay. Like, it's a human response. It's not okay. For them, it's absolutely not okay. So I actually didn't think of that California angle, and that this is maybe also another layer to it, is a condemnation of, you should be smiling, and if you aren't, we'll give you drugs that make you smile.
Right.
Remember I said in the first few scenes, I love that I can do the spoilers now, the word drugs comes up 3 times behind the Joker's, behind Arthur Fleck. He's now called Arthur Fleck. Arthur Fleck's head. In the first 15 minutes, the word drugs are in the adverts behind him, because his real personality is being completely suppressed by the drugs that he's on whilst he's putting on this happy face. So there's like this synonymous sort of thing between him putting on the clown mask and him being really fucking broken and really sad and really disappointed, totally legitimately. This is the other side of it. I don't want to go into criticism of psychoanalysis, but you mentioned the way we do psychotherapy in the West, because we go, okay, you're not happy. There's something wrong with you. She calls him Happy, which I thought was interesting. The abusive mum's nickname is Happy, but he's not happy. Like, he's literally not the guy that she says he is. That's her projective identification, because she has narcissistic personality disorder, as this is defined in the film, and schizophrenic delusion. And she keeps saying, he's such a happy little boy. He was always so happy. It's like, you abandoned him and let him be beaten up and sexually assaulted by your boyfriends. And then the narcissistic defense is, no, he's happy. He's happy. He's always happy. But the point is, he is not. He's not the happy boy that she says he is, and he is just not happy. Why do we assume when people are miserable that there's something wrong with them and that they need drugs to get back to this, instead of being like, hey, maybe shit really is fucked up. Maybe there's something really is rotten in the state of Denmark. And that's what I liked. I really, really was like going, fucking yes, thank you for saying this, that it doesn't make sense to just assume that there's a problem just with that individual. Maybe there is a societal and cultural issue that's making everybody anxious and depressed. And that's what we should be focused on, instead of pawning people off with fucking happy pills.
Yeah. Oh, Batman.
Amazing. I got quite excited there.
Yeah. But to go off on what you're saying there, it also explores the subjective psychological influence within the only the person itself too, where there's a perfect balance between showcasing what's happening externally, and most of it is external. I think most of it is actually just pointing the finger at the world around him.
Yeah,
the mom lying, letting the abuse take place, Thomas Wayne, blah, everyone else's. But it also does explore what delicate frame of mind the person has to already be in for all of those external things to come to fruition, to make him fully metamorphosize into a sociopathic, clown-like, jesterish figure.
Yes. Which, when you put it like that, I'm sat here thinking, actually, from a CPTSD point of view, I better be careful what I say. This is not what I believe, but the other guy in my head said this, and it's wrong, and I don't believe this. Is that enough of a disclaimer? The other guy saying this.
Whatever you say, Batman.
That actually the response to go from the fawn and the freeze and the flight, because we literally see him run away. We literally see him beg and smile for his job. We see him freeze when he's facing confrontation. As he switches to a fight response, is actually healthier. The Joker, the manifestation of the Joker, which would be this like personality split, he's created a twisted sort of way of being a man in the world that's totally maladaptive and is totally just like reaction formations, but it's healthier than the truth, because the truth is much more depressing. This is the psychoanalytic theory of the film, which is this: we are watching the imaginings of a guy convalescing whilst he's on Thorazine. All of it. Like, he's just literally just sat there, and in order to think about the fact that his mother abandoned him, and to think and to process cognitively that he was abused as a child, he has to go through this long ass daydream where he discovers, and he goes on a hero's journey, and he ventures forth and comes back and uncovers the secrets and fights.
So that shows how heavy the delusion he was living in, because the truth was in front of his face the whole time.
The whole time.
And that's a reflection of how often we try to suppress the truth and trying to live in our own delusions day to day.
Exactly where I was going. His roundabout the houses, super, like, think of it, he's created a whole cosmology in this perspective. Even the police, the psychiatrists, the people who catch him, his own drones who work for him, he always has mentally ill lunatics working for him. That's the story of the Joker has always been that. All of that is a fantasy. And who else is a fantasy? This sexy pervert, like, he's a man in black and he's tall and he's got leather on. And what does he do? He punishes you. He's going to punish you. Oh, Batman, have I been a naughty boy?
So is he the ultimate boundary provider and structure for the Joker's mind?
He's the missing fucking daddy. That's my daddy's. That's why he's a shadow, because he's not there. I didn't even take drugs before this.
Yeah, dude, you get worked up, man. I was like, I want to get dressed up, and you're like in full character. You're more in character than
Why won't you listen to me, Joker?
I never thought about that, but you're completely right. The character of the Joker is that missing, punishing, disciplinary father figure in Joker's life that provides some structure for the Joker to rebel against.
This is daddy.
That's daddy, baby.
This is daddy. This Batman is daddy. What does daddy only ever shows up? Okay, now I'm freestyling, but I think this has legs. Daddy shows up when people are being naughty. And what does he, and he shows up and he's in a bad mood. And he's like, what are you doing? Yeah, and he smacks the fuck out of people. But imagine this is a guy who's never really experienced real world violence, because he's a gentle man in a rough world. And so he has this fantasy, the Batman is like the super high agency sovereign individual. He literally floats over the city. The iconic view of the Batman as he's perched on top of a building.
Father.
The
punishing heavenly father.
He's Jehovah. He was always Jehovah. There's legs to this though, man. He's daddy. He's a punishing.
Yes,
he's tall. And why is it all black? I mean, in the not in the original Adam West. The original Adam West Batman is way more camp, and
sure.
But like the Christian Bale one, underneath the black mask there was black makeup as well.
Yes, that's right.
He's like he's literally shadow. Batman is nothing but shadow. But maybe he is. Maybe this is like Arthur Fleck's desire, his crazed desire for just as you said, a boundary, a father figure, an authority figure. I would take a guy who would swoop down from the heavens and attack me. But like, listen, this really has legs, because in the comic books and in the cartoons and the films that are made, Joker's never really angry with Batman. He always acts like
he's never mad.
He's never mad.
And that explains the more infantile, bratty attitude that Arthur starts developing.
He's a brat.
Like, hey, Murray. Oh, yeah, I killed those people.
Yes.
That was me.
Yes.
And every time he gets in trouble, he Batman, you're gonna punish me now.
And some of the comics, he actually says it. He says it like that. He's like, "Oh, so you're here to deliver justice, are you?" And there is like a little bit of a kinky element to it, but also there's this. Okay, Daddy's angry, but at least he's noticed me. At least Daddy can see me now. I like the way you said that. Just as I said, Daddy's angry, covered the screen in smoke. Like that. I think this has legs. I think this really has legs.
I think so too.
It would mean that whole universe. Hey, maybe the whole universe we go when we read these books, we would be inside of Arthur Fleck's head as he's convalescing in an asylum somewhere in a big city where, you know, it's full of rats, it's dirty, everybody stinks, everybody's on the wrong drugs, they're malnourished, and they're slowly dying. And he just has this fantasy of all these wonderful, like a Greek god pantheon of different superheroes and supervillains, and the whole thing is just Arthur Fleck. So when we read anything by Batman, we're actually inside of Arthur Fleck's head.
That's quite a leap.
I inceptioned myself. I took it too far, but I liked it, and I'm not sorry.
I think this is a really, really good theory.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah.
This is a really archetypal, what's it called? Hero villain structure. I mean, the whole superheroes are just based off of Greek gods and like kind of these fairy tale type of structures, basically.
Yes. They're Greek and Egyptian gods writ large. That's it, in spandex, right. And they're always a bit sexy as well. Why spandex? That's a question for another day. There's always this Freudian element to it. People who are fans, can you tell me, is there anything? Are there any comic books where Joker actually just outright just kills people? Because isn't the character supposed to nearly kill people and tease you, like in the Nolan movie? He nearly gets people to kill each other on two boats. Mm-hmm. One is full of good people, one is full of prisoners who are bad people. Yeah, and he never really just
in the Heath Ledger. There was a quote that I watched on a film analysis thing where he says that people are literally just one thread away from being civilized into just complete animals. Everyone's holding on by a thread, and it just takes one particular action. Yes. Or when people are, I wish I could find the right quote for it.
He says, given one wrong move, these people will eat each other alive.
That's right.
And Batman says, "You're wrong about them. You're wrong about them."
Yeah, there's another podcast I was listening to, and the movie, it was basically saying that the movie can explain, or provides the concept. We try to view murder as like the most heinous thing somebody can do as a human being. Mm-hmm. But think about how quick it is just to justify a murder. Yeah. Like, oh, well, that person raped my daughter. Right. Therefore, he deserves to die.
Yes.
People quickly justify murder depending on how dire the situation is.
Not just people, the courts will as well. After we did our video the other day, one of the comments said, "Is vigilante justice ever moral?" And I said, vigilante justice is sometimes legal.
I saw that, yeah. There's
a case in America where a guy's son was killed, and he walked up to the courthouse and shot the guy. It's on video.
What?
You can watch this. You see him
afterwards.
I saw that. Okay. He walks up with a small caliber pistol, puts it against his head, shoots the guy once. Nobody else is injured, and I'm not sure he spent. I don't think he did. He might have done jail time. Obviously, they would have kept him on remand for a period. I don't think he ever went to prison. I think it was. So sometimes, under certain circumstances, it's legally justified to do it.
Yes. So let me ask you a question in regards to a specific scene in the movie. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Arthur was justified in taking the revolver and killing the three Christian Bateman, what's his name? Patrick Bateman.
I do that same thing. I want to say Patrick Bateman, but he's so Christian Bale is Patrick Bateman. So you're confused.
Okay, those three rich bankers in the subway. Was Arthur Fleck, aka the Joker, justified in taking out his pistol in self-defense and killing those three?
Legally in American self-defense law, it would depend on the state.
Morally.
I would argue yes. As a self-defense instructor, I would say if you're on your own and 3 people are going to kick you when you're down, people die like that every weekend all across the civilized world. And if you have the chance to stop them, I mean, nobody wants to live with death. Like, imagine living the rest of your life knowing you'd shot 3 people to death. But to me, are you morally justified? Yes. Why should you risk being a paraplegic or dead and really, really disappointing and heartbreaking your mom and dad because 3 guys are trying to get a thrill from beating somebody up?
Let me highlight this comment here. It has to show up on the thing, but it's basically it reads, not justified in killing the guy running away.
Never. You can't. Like, no. So even the police can't do that.
What I find really interesting is that there's a sliding scale and a certain spectrum and a certain level of when it's okay.
It's called reasonable force, and it's the
reasonable force.
American law is based heavily on UK law. Okay. And in UK law, and American law applies to this with criminal justification of reasonable force. You do not have to weigh to a nicety the intent of your attacker. If you are behaving lawfully and somebody attacks you with violence, and you can justify in front of a jury of your peers that you felt that there was a chance that you or somebody else was going to die, there is no upper limit to the force you can use. So people tell you bullshit like, oh, you can punch, but you can't elbow, or you could do this, but you can do anything. Anything. You could take up a fire extinguisher and stove somebody's head in, as long as in a court of law you could say, look, in that moment I believed my life or some other innocent person's life was in danger. You are cast iron covered.
So okay, they were pretty brutal and just punching the shit out of Arthur on the subway, right?
Yes.
When one of the guys run away and he's chasing after him, is that where the line is in immorality? If he's at that point,
the moment he's not under direct threat, you have to stop. Even if you're talking Florida, where you have the stand your ground law. If you have a weapon, you shoot, and you don't fire warning shots. You don't do like shoot them in the legs. You shoot to kill. So even as soon as you can cease to justify violent action and you're not under threat, you must stop. Otherwise, it can be manslaughter or murder. And in that scenario, if I had a gun, even a knife on me, and 3 drunks from the financial sector of London were kicking me, I'd let them. But then it's like I'm trained, so I know when my neck is going to break. And
you're pretty trained on it. To the average person, that
I would say
that level of boundary.
Just use force. Use whatever force you can.
So there are, I think, a few layers to this. Like, what if the guy running away is a complete psycho, just committed atrocities?
Right. If he had a machete, or it was say in France where they had the terrorist attacks, and he has a gun or he has a machete, and he's like, I'm going to kill more people. How many people? I just saw him kill 3, and he was running away from you, and you had a gun, and you shot him in the back. Absolutely, you're covered. You're totally covered.
And also the danger of him coming back around, right?
100%.
So at that point, is it justified still to continue shooting?
If under the circumstances where you remember, this is all in court. It's not like, oh, X plus Y equals Z. Sometimes it's like, do you have a good solicitor, a good lawyer?
Yeah.
Is the judge in your favor?
Okay,
are you black?
Let's bypass the lawyer thing. Just straight up morality.
Are you black?
Sometimes.
Because it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Like the shit that you can do, it depends on, like when I was in Malaysia, if I'd been caught doing certain things in that country versus other people of different ethnicities being caught there, the punishments are different. Like if you can have hudud law applied to you in different states in Malaysia, which is like old school Islamic law, which includes being like beaten and stuff. So the ethnicity, like that was a specious comment that I made. It was slightly pedantic, but there are, like, it does make a difference depending on where you are, how are you young? Like if you're 18 years old and you're the wrong ethnicity, you're going to be treated differently by the law. You're going to be treated differently in a court. I'm not saying it's good. Fuck, that's terrible. I'm merely reporting that that's how it actually works.
Yes. So in this particular subway scene, what I think is really genius is that I want to ask you, and then also everyone here, were you on Arthur's side when he started shooting back at the bankers? No. Yeah, you were. Right. Okay. So it follows up really, really quickly. The hunting right after. You feel like you empathize with Arthur, like, fuck yeah, kill those goddamn bankers for beating them up for no fucking reason. And then They get their justice. They're both dead. One runs off. He starts chasing. And then that's when you immediately kind of, whoa, wait. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, he's on the stairs. Oh.
And he's begging. He's done. He's done. He's been shot in the ass and he's done.
Then he shoots. And then you're still in the middle ground here, where then Arthur goes into the bathroom, runs away, and then starts doing his Tai Chi dance, celebrating the murders. And then at that point, you literally go from one spectrum of the moral spectrum and hopping directly into the other end, where you just felt and empathized with Arthur, meaning like, okay, good for Arthur. I'm glad he did that. Okay, Arthur, why are you so happy about the situation? Yeah, why are you so happy now?
Yeah, I think there is a reference there to Taxi Driver, where when we watch the film Taxi Driver, most people would say, they'd be like, yes, this is good. And then you kind of go, whoa, dude, like what, why it goes too far. So then you're challenging the audience to say, okay, how long am I going to chant for Charles Bronson? This is a reference that's way ahead of your time. Chant for Arnold Schwarzenegger, chant for Sylvester Stallone to kill people. Charles Bronson made a series of movies called Death Wish, which is like a middle-aged man who goes on a vigilante run and kills low-level hoods. Jeff Goldblum is the first hood that he kills. It's like Jeff Goldblum's first role. So we want it. And then there's a point where you kind of have to ask yourself, like, what is it that I'm craving for? And really, like the director is trying to say, like, why the bloodlust? Well, the bloodlust is I'm projecting my own lack of agency, and my fantasy is that I have agency. I want to be the Joker. I want to be Batman. I want to be a man of action, but I'm civilized. So I'm the tooth that's declawed and defanged. When people deal with me with aggression, okay, it's civilized society. They're drunk, they're on drugs. I mustn't, Well, it wasn't always. So there's that question of like, when we want to see bloody vengeance, why? Yeah. Why do we want that?
Do you think that it only really comes out in the, let's just say, in the frame of just the subjective justice of what somebody thinks is justice, or do you think they just want to see violence just because it makes them feel good?
Well, that's we had a whole genre of films. It stopped now. I think it's run out of steam. But around 2008 to 2012, there were literally the torture porn genre, where it was just people being hurt.
Like Saw?
Like Saw and Human Centipede and Hostel. And it was people being hurt. And there was this very thin layer of like, do you want to play a game? And it was the sort of like, it was the kind of like Seven. I'm force feeding you because you're a glutton, or because you're full of lust, I'm going to have you killed through sex. And it was this, but it was very thin, which is what makes it pornographic. It's what makes it like, for its own sake. You're just watching people get tortured for its own sake. So there is that there.
Because here's the thing. This won't be spoilers, actually. Saw, the first movie was heavily cerebral. Actually, there's very little violence compared to the future ones. Right?
That's true. The
very first Saw movie was purely based on the questioning of your morality and what you do in that situation.
Yes.
Then Saw 2 and 3 and 4, and it was just like, let's put you in the most fucked up bear trap you can possibly find yourself in.
Right.
And now, what is the desire behind people buying the ticket to see the movie, let alone make the movie in the first place?
Oh, well, I mean, from my point of view, that was a very deliberate attempt, a successful one, to make a generation more psychopathic. There's nothing more than that. We all have sadistic drives in us. We all have. There is no culture that anybody can reference that doesn't have genocide or torture protocols, or there's stories that I can tell you about Native American practices of torture. It's really, really disturbing. Not all tribes did it, but the tribes that liked it, they made an art and a science of keeping people alive under the most gruesome conditions for entertainment. So nobody's holier than thou on this one. Everybody has that sadistic drive within them.
You know what?
Whether we feed it as a culture or not.
In the city center of Prague, there is a museum of torture here. I have not been, but they're literally, that's been there for so long, meaning that a lot of people go there to see what it's about, and it keeps the place in business.
My theory is the more removed you are from real world violence and trauma, the more of a taste you'll have for that, because it's not triggering, because you're like, oh, it's not. That's what really pissed me off about that whole genre of Saw and Hostel and all that. Is it's like, this is for first worlders who have no stress in their lives, who are totally fucking ignorant that this is real. This is happening now. There's people, I remember saying this. I got into an argument with one of my friends, and he was like, "You're getting way too worked up about this." And it was a period in time in Iraq where Saddam still had power. And I'm like, as we're having this argument now outside of a cinema, there are people in prison who have nothing on their diary tomorrow except being tortured for being like having the wrong type of Quran in the house or for saying something against Saddam. And that's their schedule. And that's still going on. And so I was like, it's not that there's films you shouldn't make, like you can't cover violence, vengeance, torture. Absolutely. And if it has a historical context, so much the better. But there's a way of doing it. And that was just gratuitous. That was like for its own sake.
Yes. So let me bring up a particular thing that ties directly back into the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
There is a heavy fascination with serial killers within the West and
Mm-hmm.
the US, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of girls that I've been with
Mm-hmm.
and I've dated. I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm not calling anyone directly in the chat right now, but there is such a heavy fascination with especially young girls
Yeah.
that like really love Charles Manson or they've studied Ted Bundy. And
Yeah.
like there's like this weird I've watched analysis videos and I still can't wrap my mind around it. I don't know why there's such a heavy fascination of watching like what's it called, like true crime, not true crime, but like the 24 hours after. And
Mm-hmm.
there's just like this oversaturation of murderous content
Mm-hmm.
of exploring the psychology of a serial killer or a fictional serial killer killing people or just this and this and this. And the Joker as well would be also considered a heavily celebrated sociopath on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just this oversaturation with this stuff. And I don't know what the fuck it is. And hopefully you can give me some insight.
Do you remember when we said in the jealousy video that rejection breeds obsession? So does repression. So if we repress the shadow, if we repress the monster, we repress the dark half, it doesn't go away. It doesn't become dormant. It gets stronger. It's like if you say to like all teenagers should have a phase where they're obsessed with violence. They're trying to integrate their aggression.
Interesting.
I read Stephen King books. I was like, and the nasty ones. Stephen King wrote some really dire stuff, like gory stuff. And there was spin-offs of Stephen King. There was like, doesn't matter. Like there was really, really graphic.
Okay.
The Clive Barker novels are like that. I was obsessed with darkness, and the music was all like, for me, was like industrial metal, goth stuff, Clive Barker artwork all over my walls. Natural Born Killers and Taxi Driver and Clockwork Orange were films that were on my wall. That's what I was. And I look back and I'm like, what the bloody serial killers and like the poster for Clockwork Orange that I had on my wall when I was 16 is being the adventures of a young man whose obsessions are violence, rape, and Beethoven. That was on my wall. And I'm like, what the fuck? But I'm raised in a culture that doesn't integrate the shadow, that doesn't initiate a young man or a young woman. So there's no way for us to sort of deal with these drives. So they get pushed down. It's the same as sex. We're a culture completely obsessed with sex, obsessed in a way that is not healthy because of repression. Whereas if you were just hanging out with barely any clothes on and you just pulled your little tongue to one side and you got down and you just had sex, you wouldn't be obsessed with it because it would just be like,
You see, always looking at me when he was saying
yeah,
that.
Ron, just pull that little thong, put the clown nose back on. I'll put the mask on. Let's make something.
I was like, the eye contact got really serious right there. I had to look away for a second. It made the Joker uncomfortable. Shit. Yeah,
it's repression.
Okay.
It's massively about repressing.
because okay, now that I think about it, say the girls that I've dated that were really obsessed with the idea of serial killers, they were heavily, primarily sheltered, and they live pretty, upper class, middle class life, and there's not a lot of like real violence or confrontation that they have to deal with, and oftentimes they're really, really sweet from the outside.
Yeah.
I love really sweet, nice girls making apple pie.
Yeah,
and then they're thinking about like some dude
Torture
just being
and
like
drilling people and
know?
stuff. Yeah,
And
I
then-
think it's almost like Arthur Fleck desiring the punishing father to come down from above. They're desiring that dark male predatory type because it's that also has been repressed. It's wiped from the landscape. Like you cannot be a wolf in this society. And there are elements of commentary around masculinity in this film. You said it, and in the comments, people have said, "Oh, Arthur Fleck is gay." I don't think that's the case. I think this is somebody who's out of touch with his own sexuality, which is why we see snapshots of pornography in the film.
Yeah.
That he owns and porno that's in the background, but it's this it's this lack of intimacy. It's this objectification. The porn that he has in his book that you see on screen flashed has no head.
Yes, that's right.
There's no face. So it's this total, like, it's body parts. So somebody like him, which is somebody who's a psychotic delusional, they wouldn't have the sort of like, is he hetero or is he's not? Has sexual urges, but there's no,
it's disjointed.
Yeah, there's no structure through those for those sexual urges. In psychoanalytic terms, there's no ego boundaries through which he could have a sexual preference. There would just be no filter to it. So would he be sexually attracted to the Batman? Probably, but he might just as well be, sexually attracted to the trash can.
But I think that's why the discomfort is so heavy, especially like when he starts getting really feminine towards Murray.
Yeah.
Murray. But he gets off on the violence on top of that. I think that's why it's so discomforting. You were used to sexuality being so linear. You're attracted to men, women, trans, or both, or all three.
Yeah.
Things are getting a lot more complicated nowadays.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can't pinpoint his sexuality makes it that much more of a discomforting character.
I found it very discomforting because Jack Nicholson's Joker is a straight. The storyline is he's the gangster. So he's a straight, like, mafia style gangster who becomes the Joker. Heath Ledger is a lunatic, but it's clear from the things and the scenes in the film he's when I said straight gangster, I didn't mean heterosexual gangster. I meant he's a gangster.
Yeah.
But he is heterosexual. That's like he's lusting after Kim Basinger in that film. Heath Ledger shows sexual interest in women, and his demeanor is not camp. Yes, Arthur Fleck is discomforting because he's childlike and feminine, and that's part of Joaquin's genius. Is for every character now, he seems to develop like a kung fu. There's like this body movement that goes with it. And this was big for Arthur Fleck, especially when he's dancing and this sort of like coy smile.
Okay. You know what I think is that his overall character is overtly sexual in a very extremely non-traditional way, where everything that he does, the murder, the comedy act, the all that stuff comes from a sexual place, but it's not like body part sexual. It's all like this sexual release that's murderous, that he can't even pinpoint where it's coming. I guess it's pretty Freudian if you think about it.
Very Freudian, very Freudian. But that is what an infant does. That's what a pre-ego stage 2-year-old or 3-year-old, they will just start. They don't jerk off, but they'll start playing with the genitals right in front of you in the supermarket. Because in their head, there's no shame. And when you were talking about him, I was like, why did I find him so discomforting? And I was like, well, he's the kind of person who, if you're around, I couldn't be 100% sure that he wouldn't just start jerking off in front of me.
Yeah, he has that vibe, right?
Innocently, like.
And he starts stalking the girl in the movie too.
He's just like, I like this girl. Now, my 2-year-old nephew does that around the swings in the playground. He'll go, girl, and he just starts. It's this primal, no filter. I like this thing. I'm going to pursue the thing that I want to follow. That was really creepy watching a grown, not just like a man, like he's like 45, 50-year-old man.
Wrinkles, really disheveled, like sweaty and bony, acting like like 8-year-old.
Like an 8-year-old. And going,
like how close he was with his mom too was really discomforting on top of that.
Super Freudian.
Yeah.
Really. She's there.
He's like helping her shower in the bathroom.
And the way that Todd Phillip set up that shot is you can see the top part of her breasts.
Which is sexual.
And it's
agenda.
Like, oh my God.
That's the attention right there. Because the moment you see where it cuts off, it automatically implements that sexual thought in your head, and you don't mean to, but that's kind of the vibe you get there.
But he also, Joaquin Phoenix is so good. He noticed when he does the film, the way he moderates his speech and inflection depending on who he's talking to, and he speaks to his mom like a lover.
Yes.
So, Mom, dance with me.
Yeah.
Dance with me. Oh, you're so... And he's like putting the water on. He's like, what are you saying? And he's flirting with his mother. Yes. And you're like... Oh, yeah. Dude, stop. But it's not the way I just did it, which is a step too far. He's right on the line. He just pushes... Like, this is the actor. Mr. Phoenix is pushing your buttons the whole time. He knows how frightening this is, but he never... makes it comic book and silly. He just but he's on the line pushing it with every look, every motion, everything is wrong. There's a scene in the film where he picks up the phone and he's been, we think, masturbating. And then he answers the phone. And then with his other hand, he touches his own face. And it looks like he's been doing, what's it called where you make your hand numb? Is it called the stranger? I was like, you will see this in the film. He says, really? You want me on this TV show? Wow. And he touches his own face as though it's somebody else's hand, but we've just seen it implied that he was jerking off. It's really... But there's nothing awful. He's not like going, I'm going to jerk off.
It's always implied.
It's just right on the edge.
But I think that's why it's such a divisive figure, because if you were to just overtly do it, we would automatically think, oh, villain. Nah,
you can reject
gross.
You can reject him.
But you really, when you watch it and see the situations that he's brought up to be in, it's like he had no chance, and he's trying to grasp a decent moral frame of mind, and it's not his fault that he was sheltered and neglected and abused as a child, and he doesn't really know his boundaries because no one really taught him, and he's trying his best, and then oh fuck, he's now doing this. But I get why he's doing that. He's not just in the grocery store just going for it, trying to hurt people. He never really tries to hurt people until he snaps,
until the Joker is formed, and we see there's that moment because he started acting with his what are the bones in your back called? The scapula. And he does this scapular retraction thing now, and he's done it in a couple of roles. It's really disturbing because he's so thin, and you see him like do this werewolf thing where he's got his hands on the walls, and he's like he's doing the passive aggression. He's about to kill his co-worker, and he's like, oh, that's really, I'm so glad that you came here because you're so kind. And then his co-worker's like, okay, you're being a bit creepy now, and he drops his head. And when he comes back up and he looks towards the first victim, that's his first, right? You're seeing the Joker. Like, that's the moment. He just went from defanged, infantilized cub to werewolf. And the moment that does it is a murder. He actually murders somebody with the scissors. Where I
had to close my eyes the second time because the first time it comes out of nowhere. Like when you first saw it, were you like, oh fuck?
Yeah, I could feel it. I could feel it coming. Oh my god! There's just a little aside here on films and violence. The sound effects are really good. And I watched Casino the other day, and I realized Scorsese has mastered violence through sound effects. Because actually, if you turn the sound down, a lot of the stuff looks goofy. But you put the sound on, and it's like jarring. There's a film called, don't watch it unless you have a very strong stomach. It's called Jawbone Tomahawk. The violence in that is extremely shocking. But if you can tolerate the gore, please don't watch it, especially if you've got CPTSD. It's hard. It's the sound.
You think it's the sound? Because that would actually make sense. I closed my eyes and I was still fucking
grossed out.
When he starts banging the head against the wall, you hear the...
It's not fake. It's not that. It's not like from a 60s kung fu movie going... It's actually the sound that you think a skull hitting a concrete post.
Let's go off on that. We briefly mentioned it on my live stream, but the idea and depiction of violence in the movie, I think, has to deal with how much of the outrage that it's brought up, because the violence in the movie is that much more shocking due to the sound effects, the buildup. It's actually right before the biggest violent acts of the film have a really mundane, normal context.
Yes.
Talk show or a friend visiting you.
Yes.
And that's what makes it so much more disgusting and frightening and impactful.
And we've just spent all this time with him. Like, all the shots that we do are so close up. It's at the level that you would sit with a friend. Like, everything is...
Yes!
This is
framed. That's why it's fucked up.
This is so close.
Oh my God.
You're so close to him the whole time that when he turns and does these things, it's like if I was walking down the street with Pierre and then he kills somebody. And the response of the dwarf was, Arthur, why would you? Which is our response.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
Yeah, you don't want to say that. What do you say? Why? And then this is the genius of the director.
Yeah.
He was able to take a straight, the most terrible murder I've ever seen on film.
Yeah.
And then 5 minutes after,
makes
the darkest of jokes when the little person, midget if you want to be non-PC about it, he gets the little person to try to leave through the door, jump scares him, it actually doesn't hurt him.
Yeah.
And he can't reach the lock at the very top, which
Right.
the whole theater laughs at.
Yes.
And you know it's messed up to laugh at a disability like that.
Yeah.
And then he gets up, kisses him on the forehead. Hey, you're the only person that was nice to me.
Yeah.
And lets him go.
Yeah.
To go from the most violent murder to making you sick to your stomach where I couldn't even watch the second time into a joke that you shouldn't laugh at that makes you laugh is just fucking genius.
And the little throwaway line, he's mocking his English accent. He goes, "Oh, you won't believe this, but I'm going to be on the telly tonight," because the guy is English. And you feel like there's blood pooling from this still warm body, and this guy's standing next to the door going, "Arthur, could you open the door for me, please? Because that body the foot is touching me, and I want to throw up." It's very human. Everything in this is not, big man, big Terminator, bang, 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 kill all the bad guys and just walk away, cut to the next shot. Everything is consequence. We have to sit there with the blood congealing, the body twitching, and deal with these mundane, I literally can't reach the door. You know how embarrassing that is where you say goodbye to somebody or you've had an argument with them, you're like, "I'm leaving," and then you don't have the key to the door and you're like, "Could you just open the door so I can make my dramatic exit properly?" And very human.
They added that when the cops actually interrogate him, and then he's like, "You know what? It's whatever." He throws the cigarette, walks directly into a glass sliding door.
Yes, yeah.
And he's still trying to get in, and he can't. He enters through an exit door, and that's deliberate, I'm sure. No?
Everything was about showing how Arthur Fleck is totally out of step with his world. Every move he makes is the wrong move, which is the funny thing. That's the joke, because he's a comedian, so he needs to be in step. He needs to get the joke, and he's like the opposite of a comedian. He's on the spectrum for comedy, but he's at that, the original Greek comedy was pure tragedy. Everything is out of step, and Todd Phillip shows that in a way that I think was really, really smart. That guy trying to get in through the outdoor and hitting an invisible barrier with his face in a humiliating way is the character for the whole film.
Yes. And he's trying to enter through the exit door. And that's the metaphor for his entire persona throughout the film. He's trying to go through the wrong door.
Including somebody's mentioned the uncontrollable laughter of Arthur. That whole side of it, I loved what Joaquin did with that, because it was he brought the comic to reality, because when the Joker laughs in the comics, it's they're big block letters that say "ha ha ha."
Oh yeah,
they're big. They don't have bubbles around them. They're the only words that won't be bubbled. It'll be the Joker's laugh. And in order to control that, he literally has to do this to get it rounded. And he's like, He's trying to hold the Joker in. Right. He's trying to hold the joke and the laughter inside, and he's using all of his force, which is mirrored in the scenes where we see him opening the boots. And we see him from the back as he's like, "Oh yeah, the wrong size for him." He's like, "My
tension,
my feet don't fucking fit in these things," and he's got it because he's pushing himself into places where he doesn't belong because he's trying to be civilized. He's trying to be a civilized man. By the end of the film, do you think he became an attractive character?
Depends who you ask, right? But if you see him wearing what he's wearing, the suit fits him amazing. I love the visual aesthetic towards the Joker towards the end of the movie. Fuck that outfit, the makeup, just holding his fucking cigarette like this. Just really poised and just really in control of himself, and he's on top of the car. He's praised by everyone and does a thing and he's dancing, sort of a thing. Is that much different, that situation there, from any rock star, any musician that's popular, any movie star?
He kind of becomes in the end of the film, he is a rock star by the end of it, and he has people applauding him, which was another thing that made me go, "This is a guy who's having a delusional fantasy moment inside the asylum." What if I was going to back that? I would say anytime he dances, he's in the middle of a masturbational fantasy about beating up his evil boss, beating up his evil co-workers, getting the girl that he always wanted. These are his fantasy moments that he's doing this. Like you say, it's that weird Tai Chi sort of a dance that he does. It's really, really spooky. And it gets more confident. He's got the skill to do awkward, weird Tai Chi dance that's really vulnerable, and then it becomes like this heavier, more masculine, more wolf-like.
Right.
You see him do,
Yes.
it changes.
And here's the thing: when he enters the talk show, he can do those pirouettes without missing a beat, and he doesn't stumble at all. He's just really elegant. Spins twice, and walking, does his thing, sits down.
Yeah.
And I'm just really piecing this together. I think this part heavily relates to a lot of creatives and a lot of artists, where it's literally this. The director said this. The reason why the Joker character dances throughout the entire thing, he just felt like Arthur would have this musicality that's suppressed within him, and every time he does something violent or masturbatory, he starts exploring that music that's just trying to get out. And for anybody who's an artist or creative or just regular people in general, let's just apply it to everybody who feels like they have a more artistic musical side deep within them. How often when you try to express that, do people are like, okay, what are you doing? You're this, you're this. And it's literally beating down the musicality of life. You call it intimacy, call it love, call it the natural rhythms of how things are supposed to be, call it self-expression, whatever it is. I think it is a commentary on the fact that musicality isn't allowed in the modern Western first world.
And maybe that ties in with the sexuality and everything. Like, if we take it not in such a rigid way and go, okay, this is like the Freudian term would be libidinous force. It's not literally about sex. It's actually about life.
Right.
It has the music, this desire for life to come out. But we can't deal with it. We can't deal with that chaotic, I think I referenced Pan right before we came on, that the god of Pan. Like, we can't deal with that much raw, chaotic life force. But in our repression, haven't we become a bit miserable, weird, neurotic, focused on the wrong things? And
let me ask you this, and anybody watching right now, can you name a famous dancer that's alive right now?
Oh, shit.
Right.
Oh, damn.
Right. I'm onto something.
Shit.
Michael Jackson's already dead. Prince is already dead. James Brown's gone. Whatever. Back in the day, you got like Fred Astaire, known for dancing, song and dance man. Where is the song and dance man now? And is that even allowed? Bruno Mars would be slightly considered that, but he's fully bullied and rejected. He's like, everyone's like, oh, he's gay. Like, he's just really like.
Why does he get a hard time?
Because he's in the wrong decade.
Okay.
That's just it.
Okay.
And I think just because that's really hard to name a dancer now really shows how much we've rejected musicality. In terms of in the literal
so sad.
sense.
I never noticed that. There's no male, or maybe some of the girls are doing it, but it's more. It always feels more robotic and more rigid and
right. Yes, but I mean, I guess the K-pop scene, and there's certain other elements, but there's not really a primary Western figure that's universally celebrated for dance.
And K-pop has recycled Michael Jackson. I mean, it's not.
Yeah,
so it's really interesting. It's a really fucking interesting point. There's no famous dancers alive now, but people still love it. I mean, if you have like Dancing on Ice, or So You Think You Can Dance, or whatever the dance shows are on, people do love it. But it's not generally accepted. That's really interesting.
No, it's heavily viewed as feminine. I think in these times, I think that even because like rappers are the #1 rock star in the modern music climate.
Yeah,
rappers actually reject dance, and if they can, they actually pull back. There are a lot of rappers that can dance, but they purposely dance in a way where they don't know what they're doing, or it's like really ironic, or it's never actually like full blown. You're
not really dancing; you're just kind of leaning, hovering. Yeah. Chris Brown.
Yeah, Chris Brown.
That would be.
He also isn't celebrated because he beat his girlfriend Brianna at the time. And he's also just a musician that happens to dance really well. But in terms of like, you remember Michael Jackson being an excellent fucking dancer.
Yeah.
You remember Prince being a good dancer. James Brown is a dancer.
Yeah.
Fred Astaire singing in the rain. He's dancing. And even Charlie Chaplin has a performance. He's in the film, the Joker film, multiple times.
Yeah.
This character that existed, 1920s, something like this?
I guess 1920s to the 30s. Yeah.
Very physical, performative character. That's extinct. I think that doesn't exist anymore. You don't have a physical performance in terms of some sort of that being the main outlet and medium to express in today's world, I don't think that really exists.
That's really sad. That's really, really, really sad. Yeah, it's a good point. We should bring dance back. I'm up for that.
Yeah, and I think that's what the Joker is ultimately pointing to: the death of the death of dance, but the consequences of suppressing the musical side of humanity. On top of that, I mean, obviously you have other layers to it, but I think that's also a concept that I'm just maybe reaching for.
No, I think you're bang on. I think that he says it. He says, and it's this really sad statement. He's like, "Mother always said I'd bring joy to people in the world." He wants to make people fucking happy. He wants to dance and perform. And when he's with the kids in the hospital, he's not doing that. It doesn't look to me like he's doing it ironically. It doesn't even look like
he's genuine.
It doesn't look like he's depressed in that scene.
No, he's happy.
He actually looks for a moment like he's really doing it. But then, of course, there's the intrusion, the phallic intrusion, of course, of the pistol. Suddenly, there's a gun in a place where there shouldn't be a gun, which is, is very Freudian in front of children as well, of all things. But he actually did look happy for a second there, and I think there is this. Maybe Todd Phillips is like. Maybe he thinks the director thinks there's a place for a troubadour, a harlequin, a jester, a performer just for the sake of it, and it's destroyed. It's stamped on, spat on, drugged. Told it's a freak, isolated, ignored, unseen, made invisible, and maybe that's where he was is going with that.
Let me tell you about some of my life. What happened here was I was a dance instructor for a while.
Were you really?
I was actually a hip hop dance instructor.
Well, I can see some of these casts are going to go in a certain way.
Yeah.
Wait till my knee gets better.
I was a hip hop dance instructor, and I just kind of fell into I did a talent show or something, and somebody owned a dance studio in the audience, and they hired me for the thing. I can't count for shit, so I didn't know how to choreograph. That's besides the point. But I was teaching a lot of young kids. Like, so I had parties that were like 4 years old. They can barely walk. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell is a 4-year-old going to do? He's going to do this. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I have to teach like these 4-year-olds or 7-year-olds to eventually like 16 sometimes. Yeah. And as I was teaching dance to like the 6, 7, 8, I had a great fucking time doing it. I'm like, yeah. At one birthday party, I was hired for 1 hour, but I didn't know. I actually danced the whole 2 hours and kept their attention for 2 hours and didn't even realize it. Right. And I was lost in this moment. I was having a lot of fun with the kids, teaching them this.
And they loved that.
They loved it. They loved me as a personality. I was really extravagant with them and showing them certain moves. And this was when I was 18 or 19-ish. I eventually left the job, and I look back in this situation. I didn't feel confident not only with counting, like I didn't know how to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I because of this conversation, I'm looking back and I'm like, I think I left because I felt a sense of shame being looked at as this this flamboyant joke for just like kids. Like when you watch the Joker dancing in front of these kids, it's kind of cringy. Yeah, it's kind of hard to watch him like ears, eyes, yeah. And at that age, you start developing your ego and your sense of masculinity if you're a dude. And I started feeling really ashamed about myself because it was like, what am I doing? Everyone's cringe. This is kind of cringeworthy, like guys and girls don't like this type of thing. The parents maybe feel they pity me a bit, so they tip me extra, but the kids love me. Sort of a thing. And I could relate to that scene because, obviously I didn't bring a gun to the to dance class. That would change. That's a story for a different day. but yeah, I think that's why I'm tying it down. I mean, this is probably my subjective analysis of what the Joker could be saying. But there is this weird sense of shame that I think the world tries to instill that type of person.
That means we're becoming more and more conformist. Things are getting more and more restrictive. Right. Not just in terms of political correctness, but across the board. Yeah. It's like one of the first few conversations we had was about makeup. Yeah. And a man in makeup. Why is that in the 80s, that wasn't a fucking issue. It would just be like, well, that dude's a bit artistic and a bit out there. It's not on your face. It's on his. Why the fuck are you worried about it? Now you're very brave walking around. the looks we get walking around Prague. It's a good thing you're not a violent man, because if that was me, I'd be like, what the fuck are you looking at?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm wearing eyeliner.
And then I pull out my revolver mug.
It's one of the weird things in when I'm doing bachata is finding a decent male instructor is almost impossible. I've had to learn how to lead as a man by female instructors.
Really?
Yes, because they get frustrated with men who don't know how to lead. And then they'll get all aggressive and be like, this is how you... And it's like, well, if there was any... And I've done bachata I've done it in 10 different countries. No, 12 different countries with like 60 or 70 different instructors. And it's the same problem all the time. And it's a really frustrating experience because I actually want to progress and it's hard. But we're at that point where, because there's so much confusion about roles and who should do what, it's really, really hard to get a decent male instructor to actually stand there and go, okay, you're a man. This is a Latin dance. You're going to lead the person who's following. You're going to lead the woman who's following. And this is how you're going to do it. You've got to like pull it. Like, there's no guys who'll do it. Not one. I've never met a single male instructor who can do it. It's only the female instructors that can do it. And they do it out of frustration. They're like, okay, I guess I'll show you how to be a man then. Why is it like, why would it be so hard to just do it properly? But maybe that's a topic for a different day.
Yeah.
Should we take some questions from this people?
Yes. If you guys have any questions for us two, or any analysis of the film that you think that we should talk about, go ahead and type that out into the chat and we will highlight you.
Men could wear makeup back then because sexuality wasn't in chaos, says Maggie.
Where is this here?
It's in the YouTube chat. Yeah. You got it. Well done.
Interesting. Yeah. I think I briefly mentioned this to you, that if I put on makeup now, the context of everything that we live in, I would be considered trans or some sort of other type of thing. Where I think before that wasn't such a common conversation. So when a man did wear makeup, they were still considered just man with makeup. Where now if I wear this, it's like, oh, you must be male to female trans or whatever else. So definitely adds to the elements of it. Rather
than thinking Dogster or Guns N' Roses, The Cure or something, they go to. That's how ideologically infected we are now. That's crazy, because the look is way more 80s rock than it is anything else.
Yeah, right. Well, the questions are coming through. You can feel free to highlight one if you can.
Oh, okay. So Shaya has asked, I'm looking. Oh, there it is. What's your opinions about the movie overall? Really, really like it. Highly, highly recommend it. It's a movie for movie fans, and it will make you love film again. That's how well crafted this is. It's real craftsmanship. In this.
One thing I wanted to say even earlier in the live stream was that this is one of the primary works that actually reflect life so accurately that we haven't had in a while, because it's all superhero movies, or just this type of movie that approaches it through purely imaginative, over-optimistic fantasy, where you don't have a direct reflection of life. And that is, I think, what art should do, or art should be the lie to show you the truth, as Picasso said. But oftentimes it's just a straight up delusion that has no grounding and no footing in reality. And that's why this has so much controversy, is because it heavily reflects real elements of life.
Yeah, definitely. It's not, and it shows you that, like, well, superheroes are mentally ill. Like, most of them are mentally ill. The only other thing I can think of that's done that is there's a Rick and Morty episode where Christian Slater is a superhero and they go to another planet and they break down the mental illnesses of all these superheroes that are overcompensating for their insecurities, traumas, whatever else, because, you know, you're flying around in spandex beating people up all the time. Dude, maybe we should just have a little chat. Maybe you need to do some emotional literacy work. That's what I would say. Why? Well, we did cover this on Pierre's channel last night. I think a lot of that is just pure virtue signaling. They know that it'll get retweeted and liked and reshared and blibbly blop on the Glooval flop. Glooval flop counts for a lot. So it's made us, it's idiotified everybody, because then you're only going to do stuff just to get likes, retweets, and it's not about anything other than that. And it's made people's responses cheap. The response becomes like, well, what can I say that's just going to get me retweeted?
I want to quickly ask you something, if it's okay.
You may.
Why? Actually, I'll ask everybody here.
It can be extremely intimate. I don't know.
Let's ask everybody. Why do you think a character that is performative or jester-like is so heavily disrespected at society's at large's eyes? Why do you think that attracts so much negativity to be dancing for children like this and being like sort of a thing?
I'm not sure. I want to answer that question in like a sort of a Jungian archetypal way. It's about the tarot. It's about the archetype of the fool. Sure. I think that the collective unconscious is desperately trying not to look at reality. And that's what a jester does. But it does it jokingly. That's what I do on my channel. That's what you do on your channel, is like, we're showing you the truth. I'll give you a laugh and I'll give you a tickle while I do it. But you're getting some raw, direct truth pumped to you. And that's what a court jester, that's the right. That's the only person who can speak the truth to the people in the hierarchy who are above him or her and not have their fucking heads cut off. It's not like, you can't kill a jester. It's the worst luck in the world to attack a fool.
Because is that in a way attacking reality?
There's like this sacred status. Like we said on your channel last night, it's not a shaman. It's a shamanistic role, right, in that to use our modern parlance, you're allowed to stay mentally ill. You can be in the corner staying mentally ill, but you keep the portal open to the unconscious, to the greater reality, to the cosmos. We let you be a crazy person. We let you live on the edge of the village. You don't have to work. You don't have to farm. You don't have to hunt. You're not going to eat as much as the hunters do, but everybody's going to give you food. It's a special allowance. It's a special role. But I think having it center stage, we live in a time that's so psychopathic that it wants to condemn that portal, that truth, that special role, because it's like, well, fuck you. Who are you? Because we're in this toxic sort of toxic equivalence. Everything should be flat. Everything should be the same. So if anyone does get a special role and does have special access, they're always attacked.
So do you think that it's viewed as a position of privilege or below on the hierarchy?
I think it's a reminder that we need that. And we don't want to think that we need that.
Yeah.
You don't want to think that you need a jester, that you need a fool.
Right.
You don't want to think, like, our modern equivalents are our stand-up comics. And what's happening to our stand-up comics? They're being lynched in the town square for a tweet that they did 12 years ago or 6 years ago. It's completely insane. That is the sign of a very, very sick culture. That should be that. I really sincerely and strongly believe, if I, to the extent that I am a creative person, that should be sacrosanct. A stand-up comic, male, female, whatever orientation, ethnicity, background, please give them the space to speak. Please give them the space to make jokes and be funny so that I can live and not shoot myself. Please, we need them. Like, they literally have saved, I've spoken to you about this, they literally have saved my life. I mean, me, my most depressed back in 2012, 2013, I had Bill Burr, Louis C.K., Patrice O'Neill, the Boston trio, I would think of them as being, every day. And that was the only thing that kept me going.
Right.
But they were doing material. This is 2012. Back then, there's no way they would be allowed to do that now. It's too controversial. You might hurt people's feelings, or rather, people would pretend to have their feelings hurt so they can get little bum pats and ego wankies on fucking social media. There's me wanking your ego.
They see things that some would rather than not see because their feedback will be too honest about how we're the crazy ones.
Right.
Yeah, often stand-up comedy, the target is the audience. It's actually one person almost shitting on the audience and what their behaviors are.
That's always the funniest.
Right.
Patrice O'Neill calling out people in the audience is like Louis C.K. has this formula. If he tells a story that's him, that means he means you. He means the audience. If he says it's the audience that's doing it, or he saw a guy doing it, he's actually talking about him. Bill Burr, straight up, is a warrior who is in the arena, and he'll just fight the audience.
Yeah, right.
And he's such a hero. He's so brave and heroic in the way he does it, and so skilled. But yes, they are saying things that people would rather not hear. It's wonderful.
And so do you think that comedy and art in general is at a time where it's being heavily attacked, or do you think it's still kind of okay?
No, it's not okay. We're all under tremendous pressure.
I mean, think about it. The Joker is just a film, and it's not comedy. And it's getting super attacked. Comedy is getting attacked. Art is getting attacked.
Oh, it's 100%.
It's straight up getting attacked.
Well, I watched both. I watched on 2 nights. I watched the new Dave Chappelle special and the new Bill Burr special, and I loved them both. Dave Chappelle's back on form. He's back, and it's great. Bill Burr, fantastic. But I actually found the experience enormously depressing because I was like, if this is what people think is controversial, is that both of them they're both quite tame. By the standards of Bill Hicks and George Carlin at his prime, are you fucking kidding me? Richard Pryor in his prime, and we're supposed to think that the new Dave Chappelle is like, oh my God, should he be cancelled? Should he be deplatformed? I'm like, for what? For what? I thought it was gentle. I thought it was very, very gentle.
I mean, yeah, we talked about this on my live stream. Movies are in the same situation. The Joker movie, objectively, is tame compared to things that have been released in the past. And this movie is just more psychologically penetrating than it is actually overtly violent. And it's almost a good and bad thing that the situation exists, because the bar has been set so low to be edgy that it allows new content to be birthed. But at the same time, art should never be attacked the way that it is right now.
No, it should not. It should not. Once we truly are at the end times now. Once we start doing that and we accept it, and we just go, this is just life now, we're really in a bad place, because you notice how all of the boundaries are slowly eroded.
Yeah.
They will attack you for what you do. Now we'll attack you for what you think. Now we'll attack you for what you feel. Now, comrade, you better monitor the thoughts that come into your head, because if you don't, you will be interrogated. Or did you have the wrong thought today? We'll have you for that. So they take over the political space, they take over the media space, and then they come into the artistic space. And I'm like, you people have no fucking rights here. You have no place here. Shut the fuck up. Seriously, you're the ones who should shut the fuck up. They're like, no, we don't like this piece of art because no. That is a sacred space. And if we don't say no, then we're screwed. But this is where we're up to. And most of our problems now are because we just won't say no. We're so browbeaten. We're all Arthur Flecks. We're all Arthur Flecks.
Everyone is Arthur Fleck.
Just let me go home and watch Netflix. Just leave me. Just let me just be isolated, because it's so awful out there.
And anybody who is willing to strive and move past Arthur Fleck becomes the metaphorical Joker in another person's eyes, someone to condemn.
Yeah.
Anybody who actually takes agency within their free will to better themselves and improve, you get shot on top of that.
Yes. Yeah, because you're now leaving the tribe, and that's a sin. And if you become more than me, you remind me of how shit and shallow my life is. I'll kill you for it.
I went on a date with this girl, and she said that she came from a small village in the Czech Republic, as most of them do. And it was a really brief thing that she said, but it stuck with me because you mentioned this. She's like, yeah, in the moment you leave because you want, and you tell people your dreams and what you want to succeed in, they just immediately hammer you, especially in these small village town type situations where it's like you tell them what you really want to do with your life, and they just and that's happening in a collective scale when it comes to the internet world and whatever else.
Yes, I think what to have an optimistic swing on that would be, you've got to remember, boys and girls, that these internet spaces, what you're seeing in the comments and what you're seeing of people saying, they're dominated by the worst. You're reading, like, when you're seeing nastiness online, you're reading the comments of the worst of the 1% of the worst. It's a tiny fraction of people, and they're probably psychopaths. They're probably narcissists. Remember, the stats are full-blown narcissistic personality disorder is 1 in 100. Doesn't sound like much, but you stick like a couple of million people in a space, that's thousands of people with NPD. And they only want to do bad. They only want to cause pain and trauma. And
1 out of 100, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have a video that has 30,000 views,
yes, how
many comments do you get? That same ratio.
Probably.
Right?
Probably.
So the chances of the people that are willing to even comment.
Yep.
Well,
Sam Vaknin has a whole, I don't know if he's ever released it or not, but I've had this conversation with him a couple of times over a drink, where he would say, like, when you read the comments, when you read negative comments, the proportion is exactly the conclusion that you just came to, which is like, that's it's statistically so, because what do you do if you hate a YouTube video. What do you do? What do? I just watch something else. I'm going to sit there writing a paragraph like, let me tell you why you fucking stink. I'll just go, oh, this wasn't made for me. It doesn't really work for me. But you know what? I'm so grateful that I have all of this free stuff I can watch elsewhere. Why don't I go and do that? But no, I'm going to sit here and craft some shitty comment.
So let's apply that to the Joker controversy, right?
Yeah.
So with that ratio of someone commenting on a video,
Yeah.
who are the ones commenting on this movie? And who is this movie attacking? What if this movie, all the concepts and certain behaviors and certain things are literally triggering the ones that have a lot of narcissistic tendencies, that feel personally attacked by the film because everything is personal to them?
I don't want to say that because I don't want to be the guy that says they're all narcissists. Anybody who disagrees with me is a narcissist. However, it does seem likely or possible that when you have a lot of radical leftist types who are pretending to be leftists, but they've just hijacked an ideology that they're using as a stick to beat people with because they're personality disorders. It matches borderline personality disorder word for word. This whole thing of like finding somebody who's committed a sin. They're so religious in their thinking. It's all about orthodoxy and dogma. This person has sinned. Expose them. Let's get together and have a tribunal. A tribunal of who? Who the fuck are you people to be the judges and condemner of anybody? Then they give you a name. You'll be called a something-y, something-y, something. You're a global flopple. Oh, you don't want to be a fucking global flopple. What are we going to do with them? Silence them. We were discussing scapegoating today. And I said scapegoating is an ancient Judaic practice. You put your sins into an animal. You put your crimes into an animal, and then you send the animal to die. If that animal walks back out of the desert alive, your sins live. They have to kill the scapegoat. That's how scapegoating works. I've never said this on my channel on Spartan Life Coach. I should. They have to kill the scapegoating or the evil black magic doesn't work. That's the only way they cleanse the sins. That's why it's so aggressive. It's not enough to piss you off and to make you have a bad week. I need to deplatform you. Then I can, oh God, thank God my sins have just been absorbed. That's the lunatic logic that we're operating in here. Bonnie lassie, will ye gang and cheer with me the hill day lang? I find Scottish folk music really calms me down. Mumble rap is good too. But
that's my kind of Scottish.
That's
your really Scottish speaks folk. To my soul.
Yes.
You know, somewhere my roots, mumble rap is where it is.
Yes, yes. But maybe Scottish folk is like ancient mumble rap. Should we take another couple of questions and then?
Yes. Do you see anything here?
And then we should go get some food.
Yes, please. Not many questions here.
Please ask us a question. Make it one sentence long and end it. Oh, there is a female Joker. Right, that I looked it up. There was a timeline of an alternate reality with a female Joker. It's a super. It's a spoiler, right? I can say, yeah. So in this alternate reality, wonderful. Bruce Wayne is the one who's killed. Bruce dies. The Batman is Thomas Wayne, so he's an older Batman, way more violent, way more cruel. The wife, Martha Wayne, can't deal with the loss of her son, goes insane and becomes the Joker. She cuts herself in her grief and her loss, and then she goes on a murderous rampage. Thomas then has to fight his wife. I haven't read it. I just saw like a summary of it, but that would be cool, yeah.
But let's just say for this particular movie, do you think they would have the same amount of outrage if it was a female who took the role?
If it was somebody who took it seriously, I mean, it's like. Yeah, imagine. I'd actually like to see that. You know, what I hate is patronizingly throwing women into the central role of films. Yeah. That doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
The Mary Sues that they make out there, fuck off with that. It's horrible, and it has the opposite effect than what it's supposed to do. Show me an isolated, mentally ill, addicted, bordering on psychosis woman struggling to make it as a stand-up comic.
Oh, that's going to get attacked so hard. Like, why are you depicting women in this way?
All right.
There's no winning.
There is no winning. Who then is nearly raped on a subway? Who then becomes who becomes a vigilante? I'd watch that.
I would watch that too, but I guarantee the same amount of outrage in a different form where it's literally going to be like, well, women aren't all like this. Like, just, you shouldn't depict women in this way. We're not just murderous criminals.
If it was a good film, it would be great. And I would, if it was a good film, there's so few good female villains in films and in TV shows that when there is a good one, I'm always happy.
Why do you think society is afraid of how successful this film has been?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really, really good question. Because we're so hypersensitive now that we've become allergic to ideas, where our internal boundaries are so weak that we think if somebody else gets an idea in their head, they'll be lost to the idea.
Yes, because it influences and has the idea of chaos penetrating their moral framework. And people are really scared of entertaining that thought. People want to live stable lives with a really stable foundation, and to realize that that person is within us and that can happen in our world, and that where everyone's buying the film ticket, everyone's loving the movie. What if our society ends up like that?
Yeah, it's a thought phobic stance. I actually had a video editor work for me who I ended up falling out with. And he said that I was a gateway drug to the right. He said that what you're saying is going to lead people through YouTube related videos to right-wing activists. And I was like, well, so do you believe in a left-wing ideology? He said, yeah, obviously I do. That's all I'm about, is about social justice. I said, fine. Do you think that's correct? Do you think that's the right way to go? Yes. Is it based on truth? Yes. And why are you frightened of people hearing stuff that you, by your philosophical position, believe is garbage? If it's silly garbage, it's not going to attract anybody. If it's childish nonsense, who's it going to attract? Why are you so frightened? Let them speak. Let the right-wing activists speak. Give them their platform. Why are you so insecure and unconfident that you want to rig the game so we're not even going to have the gladiatorial battle of wills and of reason and just hash it out in that intellectual arena? You go, no, hamstring my opposition, break his sword, or I won't fight him. And then you don't really believe, do you? Weakness. It disgusts me.
Ain't that right, Batman? It exposes the real way of so many's real life. Okay, so to wrap up this Joker conceptual thing, I think I could maybe summarize a decent half of it. Maybe the outrage is because of what we're trying to do that the Joker does, which is to smile and gloss over our actual real life problems and trauma and to heavily suppress it. And that's exactly what all the outrage does right now.
Yeah.
We're afraid of actually not smiling for once and looking at the trauma, particularly in the West, because that is the general mode of operation, where when somebody is finally not smiling and pointing out actual trauma, people freak the fuck out.
Yeah. Which is covered in the film by the two tracks, the two songs that play throughout the film. One is That's Life, which is this fake, oh, that's just the way it is. That's life. Don't make a big deal out of it. Just carry on with your job. Don't look at the infrastructure. Don't look at the causation of all this and its roots. That's life. And the other one is Put on a Happy Face. And that's how this is how ideology functions today, I claim. Put on a happy face. Accept it's just the way it is. Don't complain. Don't ask questions. Get up tomorrow and go to work and do your job like a good little fucking slave.
And we're tired of doing that.
UG Rose just pointed out they want us fighting with a pierced lung, just like in Gladiator. I'd forgotten that's Joaquin Phoenix in Gladiator.
Really?
Pierces. Have you seen Gladiator?
No. I don't really watch movies, man. I'm too busy living one.
Gladiator's really, really good. But yes, he's an evil Emperor Nero, and he will only fight the gladiator at the end if he's stabbed first.
How many more questions do you think?
I'm good for questions. I need calories to go in my facial hole.
Be compliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, the Joker.
The Joker. Highly recommended. Deep film. And an excellent piece of craftsmanship by both the director and the primary actor.
Go see the movie. This is going to be one of the defining movies of this particular decade. It really reflects the times that we're living in. It's a very unique time. I think the movie does a really good job of portraying that
It's a unique time and it's the same time. This is a creepy thing about it because it's about now, but it's set in 1981.
Yeah.
And it has this extreme taxi driver look to it. And
But that's also a representation of our longing for nostalgia. That's the common aesthetic of living in 2020, 2019.
Everything is about what used to be.
It's a recreation. It's always a nostalgic recreation, remake of some other thing that we were used to.
And when the film begins, you have DC comes up on screen, but you have the 80s version of the DC logo. And I instantly went, oh, I love that. And then I went, what the fuck? Why do you love that? Why don't you want the modern one? I was like, no, I want the way it used to be, the old days. Just for me.
Just for me.
For me. I
For
prefer
me.
that.
It's for all
For
of us.
me.
It's for me. All right. Let's go get something to eat, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, for your attention. I have been and will continue to be the interdimensional space grid who is currently manifesting locally as this entity known as Richard Grannon. And my friend next to me has been
the multidimensional fuckboy for eternities and eternities to come.
Pierre the Harlequin.
XO.
Thank you very much. And we look forward to speaking to you again very, very soon.
Thank you for everyone who's subscribed to the channel. We have a lot of stuff planned out. A lot more cinematography is going to be involved and a bit more planning. So I hope you guys enjoy what
we're both going to make more of an effort from now on.
Yeah, no pressure. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
Sounded like wank.